I wanted to show you how I feed my sourdough starter. Don't you just love the taste of sourdough bread, sourdough pancakes and waffles, sourdough biscuits? Well, we make all of those things on a regular basis. And tonight I'm making sourdough biscuits, and I wanted to take this opportunity to show you how I replenish my starter culture once I remove some for cooking. So a little background here. This culture came from King Arthur flour in a little 1 ounce package like this. I've had it a while, and it comes with the feeding instructions, and you may vary that a little bit depending on your needs. But I have a very healthy and active sourdough starter, and I keep them in these mason jars, which works as well as anything. And let me show you how to feed this. Now, I've got 4 ounces of my starter in this jar right now. So you want to feed it with the equivalent of 4 ounces of flour and 4 ounces of water. The feeding is necessary twice a day if you leave your sourdough starter out at room temperature. However, you can place it in the refrigerator and it's good there for about a week. You can bring it out after a week, feed it, let it warm up a few hours, and it'll come right back to life and be good. So I'm going to measure my ingredients here because I prefer to measure by weight instead of by volume. It makes it more accurate, and I do that with all of my baking. When I use ingredients for baking, I will measure the ingredients by weight on a scale and not use cups, and I will use spoons, however, but not cups. And if you would like to check into a scale like this, they're very good, they're very accurate, and they're inexpensive. So I'll leave a link down in the comments below to where you can research these scales. All right, so let's get started with the feeding. I've got 4 ounces of water in this beaker I have already measured out. And what I'd like to do is add that to my starter and get that mixed in real well before I add the flour. It tends to mix much better that way than if I were to add the flour first. So I'm just getting this mixed up good with that in there, and I'll give you a little look of what it looks like in there. That's pretty liquidy, but it will thicken up rapidly once I start to put the flour in. Okay, so let's put 4 ounces of all-purpose flour. I'm using the King Arthur all-purpose flour, but you can use whatever's available or whatever you prefer to use. So there's 1 3/4 ounce. Okay, 4 ounces. So I'll take that now and I'll stir that up real good to get all of the ingredients combined thoroughly. Scrape the sides down. Make sure there's no dry flour left in there, because what will happen is the active yeast in there will actually feed on the flour. And you'll be able to see that because the initial signs are as your starter will begin to bubble. There'll be bubbles forming on the top. And if you let it sit out at room temperature and come back in 6 or 8 hours, it will really start to increase in volume. That's why I have these rubber bands on there. I'll place that at the bottom point when I get through feeding. And then when I come back later, I can see how much it has actually expanded. Okay, that's mixed in pretty good. I've got the sides scraped down. And I think that is it, right? And we're all done with the feeding. And there it is. I just put the lid back on loosely. I actually take the seal and turn it upside downwards so the rubber gasket doesn't meet the glass and make a seal, because as the yeast gets active, there will be gases that need to be released out of the container, so you don't want to tighten that down all of the way. Now, that's done. Let me show you a tip. And this is another starter that I have. I have two starters because I take one in the RV when we go camping and traveling, and I leave one at home just in case if something happens, I have a backup. But this one, I feed it at 2 ounces. I don't really put a lot of volume in here. So I have just fed this a few minutes ago. And it's really starting to bubble just a little bit in there. So I'm going to just let this one sit out on the counter for maybe another hour once the bubbles start to form, and then I'll put it back in the refrigerator and it'll stay there for another week. Well, I think that's all there is to it. Just keep your sourdough starter fed and it will last you very, very long. As long as you keep feeding it and taking care of it, it will still remain active. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, give it a thumbs up, and please click that subscribe button if you haven't already. And until next time, thank you for watching.